My parents told me to give my dead grandma's condo to my pregnant sister because babies need houses more than single men, so I found grandma's hidden journals. Hi everyone! Today's story will blow your mind, but really quick, if you enjoy this content, hit that subscribe button. Channel's been a bit quiet lately, and your support keeps it all going. Let's jump in. Original post. I, 27M, am sitting in what used to be my grandmother's condo, surrounded by boxes and legal documents, trying to understand how my family became strangers who speak about love in spreadsheets and optimization metrics. 3 months ago, my grandmother Patricia passed away after battling lung cancer for 2 years. We were extraordinarily close, closer than I was with my own parents, Robert, 54M, and Linda, 52F, who always seemed to view their children as investments that should yield predictable returns. Growing up, I spent every summer with Grandma Patricia. While my parents worked their corporate jobs and my sister Jennifer, 25F, went to various camps designed to build her resume, I sat in my grandmother's kitchen learning to make her famous Sunday gravy, listening to stories about my grandfather who died before I was born, and feeling like someone actually saw me as Michael, not as a future asset to the family portfolio. When I went to college at State University, just 20 minutes from her condo, our bond only grew stronger. Every Sunday without fail, I'd arrive at her place at 4 p.m. We'd cook together, eat too much, and then sit on her small balcony overlooking the city, talking about everything and nothing. She taught me about resilience, about finding joy in small moments, about the difference between a house and a home. Michael, she told me once, while we were planting herbs in her window boxes, your parents mean well, but they've forgotten that life isn't a business plan. They see everything through cost-benefit analysis. Promise me you'll never lose sight of what actually matters, the intangible things that can't be quantified on their spreadsheets. I promised, though I didn't fully understand what she meant until recently. When Grandma's cancer diagnosis came, I rearranged my entire life. I took on remote work opportunities, spent evenings at the hospital, managed her medications, drove her to appointments, and held her hand through chemotherapy sessions that left her exhausted but somehow never defeated her spirit. Jennifer visited monthly, usually for an hour, always checking her phone for work emails. My parents came by weekly with flowers and statistics about survival rates, treatment options, and estate planning. We need to be practical about asset distribution, my father said during one particularly tone-deaf visit while Grandma was still receiving treatment. Have you updated your will recently, Mom? Grandma just smiled at him sadly. Everything is in order, Robert. Don't worry about my assets. Worry about my comfort. He never quite got that message. When she passed, it was peaceful. I was there, holding her hand, telling her about the tomato plants I'd started from the seeds she'd given me. Her last words to me were, "Take care of my home, Michael. It's yours now. You're the only one who understands it's more than square footage." The will reading was straightforward. Grandma had been meticulous in her planning, working with her lawyer, Mr. Charles Brennan, to ensure everything was clear. To me, she left her 2-bedroom condo in the Riverside district, worth approximately $300,000. To Jennifer, she left her investment portfolio, stocks, bonds, and mutual funds also worth approximately $300,000, plus some valuable jewelry that had been in our family for generations. My parents received her car, some smaller investments, and personal effects. The division seemed completely fair. Jennifer and I received equal value, just in different forms. I even thought it was thoughtful. Jennifer had always been interested in investing in finance, while I cherished the memories and stability the condo represented. For 3 weeks, everything was fine. I began the slow process of moving from my cramped studio apartment to the condo, taking time to go through Grandma's belongings carefully, preserving what mattered, donating what didn't. I kept her kitchen exactly as it was, the same mismatched dishes she'd collected from estate sales, the spice rack I'd built her for Christmas 5 years ago, the ancient KitchenAid mixer that still worked perfectly. Then came the dinner invitation. Family meeting, my mother had called it. Important matters to discuss. I arrived at my parents' house to find the dining room set with the good china, my father's expensive wine already breathing on the sideboard, and my mother's laptop connected to their large-screen TV. Jennifer was already there, sitting with her husband Brandon, her hand resting on her stomach in that deliberately obvious way that immediately told me she was pregnant before any announcement was made. "Michael," Mom said with unusual warmth. "Sit, sit. I made your favorite, the mushroom risotto." That should have been my first warning. Mom only made labor-intensive dishes when she wanted something. We ate with stilted small talk about work, the weather, anything except why we were really there. Finally, as Mom served tiramisu, another red flag, as she usually considered dessert an inefficient use of calories, Dad cleared his throat. "We need to discuss the condo situation," he announced, clicking a remote that brought up a PowerPoint presentation on the TV. "What situation?" I asked, genuinely confused. I've already started moving in. The estate lawyer said everything was finalized. Legally, yes, Mom said, her tone shifting to what I'd always called her boardroom voice. But we need to think about this practically, as a family unit rather than as individuals. The first slide appeared, optimal resource allocation in the Morrison family. Jennifer is pregnant, Dad announced, though Jennifer's protective hand gesture had already given that away. With twins. Congratulations, I said to Jennifer, and I meant it. Despite our differences, I was happy for her. Thank you, she said, but her eyes were already calculating, just like our parents. That's actually what we need to discuss. Dad clicked to the next slide, which showed a floor plan of the condo with square footage calculations. The Riverside condo has 1,100 square feet, he began, as if lecturing to a business class. 2 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms, a proper kitchen, and living spaces suitable for a family. Your current studio is 450 square feet. Jennifer and Brandon's 1-bedroom apartment is 700 square feet. Okay, I said, not following their logic yet. Mom took over, clicking to a slide showing income percentages and housing costs. Michael, your salary at the consulting firm is $95,000 annually. You're single, no dependents, no immediate plans for family formation based on your 5-year trajectory. My 5-year trajectory? I interrupted. Have you been analyzing my dating life? We're looking at data, Dad said calmly. Jennifer and Brandon's combined income is $67,000. With twins arriving in 6 months, their housing needs are critical. Your housing needs are flexible. The next slide showed a photo of the condo with arrows pointing to various rooms labeled nursery, children's bedroom, play area. You want me to give Jennifer my inheritance, I said flatly, finally understanding. We want you to think like a family member, not an individual, Mom corrected, producing a folder from her briefcase. We've had papers drawn up for a property transfer. You would receive Jennifer's stock portfolio plus a $20,000 premium for the inconvenience. The inconvenience? I laughed bitterly. That's what you call taking away my grandmother's home? It's not taking away, Brandon interjected, speaking for the first time. It's optimizing family resources. You can rent anywhere. We need an actual home for our children. Jennifer leaned forward, her expression carefully composed. Michael, you work 60-hour weeks. You're never home. You've mentioned maybe getting a dog someday, but that's your only plan for that space. We're having actual human beings who need proper rooms, safe spaces, a neighborhood with good schools. The condo is in the Riverside School District, Dad added, clicking to a slide showing school rankings. 93rd percentile for elementary education. Would you deny your nieces or nephews that opportunity so you can have an extra bedroom for an office you'll never use? It's not about the space. I protested. It's about what Grandma wanted. She specifically left it to me. She left it to you before knowing about the twins, Mom said dismissively. If Patricia had known Jennifer was starting a family, she would have made different provisions. You know she always prioritized children's needs. You don't know that, I said, my voice rising. You weren't there for the conversations we had. She told me specifically that she wanted me to have the condo because dash. Because what? Dad interrupted. Because she liked you better? That's not how families work, Michael. Resources go where they're needed most. It's basic logic. I stood up, the chair scraping loudly against their hardwood floor. This isn't logic. This is you trying to steal my inheritance. Steal? Mom's voice turned cold. We're trying to ensure our grandchildren have proper housing. You're the one being selfish, hoarding space you don't need while a pregnant woman struggles to prepare for twins in an inadequate apartment. Jennifer stood too, and I noticed how she placed her hand on her stomach again, a gesture I now realized was deliberately theatrical. Michael, I didn't want it to come to this, but Mom and Dad are right. You're thinking emotionally, not practically. Grandma loved all of us. She'd want what's best for the whole family, especially the babies. Then why didn't she leave the condo to you? I shot back. The room fell silent for a moment before Dad clicked to another slide, this one showing legal documents. We've consulted with estate lawyers, he said calmly. There are grounds to contest the will based on undue influence. You spent an unusual amount of time with Patricia in her final months. You controlled her medication schedule. You had opportunity to influence her decisions while she was vulnerable. I felt like I'd been punched. You're accusing me of manipulating a dying woman? My own grandmother. We're saying the situation raises questions, Mom said clinically. Questions that could be avoided if you simply do the right thing voluntarily. Update 1, 2 weeks later. I thought the dinner was the worst of it. I was naive. My family has weaponized their optimization strategy in ways I never imagined possible. First, they started with social pressure. Jennifer announced her pregnancy on social media with a long post about preparing for twins in challenging circumstances, and how family support systems are so important during these transitions. The comments filled with sympathy and offers of help, everyone assuming she was struggling alone. She never mentioned the $300,000 in stocks she'd inherited. Then came the family gatherings I wasn't invited to. My Aunt Margaret called me afterward. "Your parents explained the situation," she said coldly. "I can't believe you'd put your comfort above your sister's babies. Patricia would be horrified." "Aunt Margaret, it's not about comfort. Grandma specifically dash." She hung up before I could finish. My cousin Thomas, who I'd grown up with, texted me, "Dude, just give her the condo. You're making the whole family look bad." But the real escalation came yesterday morning. I arrived at the condo to find the locks had been changed. A locksmith van was pulling away as I parked. Jennifer's car was in my spot, my grandmother's spot. Through the window, I could see people moving inside. I called the police immediately. The officer who responded looked tired before I even started explaining. "So you own this property?" he asked. "Yes, I inherited it from my grandmother. Here's the paperwork." Jennifer appeared at the door, looking perfectly composed. "Officer, I'm so sorry about the confusion. This is a family dispute. I'm his pregnant sister, and there's been a miscommunication about living arrangements during the estate settlement." "Ma'am, did you change the locks on a property you don't own?" "My parents have power of attorney for the estate," she lied smoothly, producing official-looking documents. "We're in the process of transferring the property. Michael is just resistant to the family's decision." The officer looked at the papers, then at me, then at Jennifer's obviously pregnant belly. "Sir, this seems like a civil matter. You'll need to sort this out through lawyers." "She's trespassing," I protested. "She's family," he replied, as if that explained everything. "And she's pregnant. I'm not going to forcibly remove a pregnant woman from a property during an estate dispute. Get a lawyer, file the proper paperwork." After he left, Jennifer stood in the doorway of my home, smiling sympathetically. "Michael, you can come in if you want. We're just taking measurements for the nursery." Inside, I found my mother directing a contractor through the second bedroom while Brandon discussed converting the office nook into a feeding station with another worker. "Get out," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "All of you, get out now." "Michael," Mom said in that infuriatingly calm tone, "we're trying to be practical. The renovations need to start soon if we're going to have everything ready before the twins arrive. You're welcome to take any personal items you've already moved in." "This is illegal. You're trespassing. I own this property." "For now," Dad said, entering from the kitchen. "But that's being reviewed. Our lawyers have found some interesting discrepancies in Patricia's final months. Did you know she changed her will 3 times in the last year? Always after private conversations with you. That suggests a pattern of influence. She changed it to add specific items she wanted to leave to certain people." I protested. "The lawyer was present each time." "Your lawyer," Mom pointed out. "The one you recommended to her. Charles Brennan has been practicing estate law for 30 years. He's the most respected attorney in the city. And yet he allowed a dying woman on heavy medication to make significant changes to her estate planning," Dad said. "Questionable judgment at minimum." Jennifer had moved to the kitchen, running her hand along my grandmother's vintage dining table. "This is beautiful, but it's not child-safe. Those sharp corners will need padding, or we might just replace it with something more practical." "Don't you dare touch that table," I said through gritted teeth. "Grandpa made that table by hand in 1952. "Exactly," Mom said. "It's a safety hazard and a maintenance burden. A modern table would be more efficient." I pulled out my phone and called Charles Brennan immediately. He answered on the second ring. "They're in the condo," I said without preamble. "They changed the locks." "I'm filing an emergency injunction now," he assured me. "But Michael, you need to document everything. Take photos, record conversations if you're in a one-party consent state, which you are. They're playing dirty, but they're also making mistakes." As I started taking photos, Brandon blocked my shot of the contractor's van. "No photos of our vendors, please. Privacy concerns. It's my property." That's being disputed, he said calmly. And we don't want you harassing our contractors. The contractor in question looked deeply uncomfortable. Ma'am, he said to my mother, if there's an ownership dispute, we really shouldn't proceed without clear authorization. Mom handed him a business card. Call this number. Our lawyer will explain the situation and provide indemnification for any work you do. The contractor left without doing any work, but two others were still measuring and discussing modifications. Jennifer had positioned herself on the couch, hand on her belly, looking exhausted. The stress isn't good for the babies, she said loudly. My doctor says I need to avoid conflict, but where else am I supposed to prepare for twins? My apartment is too small, and Michael has all this space he doesn't even use. One of the contractors, a younger guy, gave me a disapproving look. The narrative was being written in real time. Selfish single brother denies pregnant sister basic necessities. Update 2, 1 month later. The legal battle has officially begun, and my family has revealed just how orchestrated their campaign is. Charles filed the injunction to remove Jennifer from the condo, but at the hearing, their lawyer presented a compelling counterargument. Your Honor, she said, a sharp-dressed woman named Catherine Walsh who reportedly specializes in family resource optimization, which is apparently a real legal specialty. Ms. Jennifer Morrison-Taylor is 7 months pregnant with twins. She's been experiencing complications that require bed rest. Her current apartment has black mold that poses a risk to fetal development. Her brother has a 2-bedroom condo sitting largely empty while she faces potential homelessness. She's not facing homelessness, Charles argued. She inherited $300,000 in liquid assets. She can afford appropriate housing. Stocks can't be lived in, Walsh countered. And liquidating them would trigger significant tax penalties that would reduce their value by nearly 40%. The condo, meanwhile, sits empty while Mr. Morrison refuses to even consider temporary accommodation for his pregnant sister. The judge, an older woman with photos of grandchildren on her bench, looked troubled. Mr. Morrison, do you currently reside in the condo? I've been trying to move in, Your Honor, but they changed the locks. That's not what I asked. Prior to the locks being changed, were you living there? I was in the process of moving from my studio apartment. So you have other housing? A studio that I'm trying to vacate because I inherited the condo. The judge turned to Jennifer. Mrs. Morrison-Taylor, are you currently residing in the condo? Jennifer stood carefully, visibly pregnant and looking fragile. Yes, Your Honor. My husband and I had nowhere else safe for the babies. My brother has been so aggressive about this that I've been having stress-induced contractions. My doctor insisted I find stable housing immediately. She produced a letter from her obstetrician that I'm certain was carefully solicited, stating that stress and housing instability could trigger premature labor. The judge reviewed the documents. Given the immediate health concerns and the fact that Mr. Morrison has alternative housing, I'm denying the emergency injunction. This matter should be resolved through standard estate litigation. Mrs. Morrison-Taylor may remain in the residence until a full hearing can be scheduled, which given our current backlog, will be in approximately 3 months. 3 months. Jennifer would have the twins by then, be firmly established in the condo with newborns, and no judge would evict her at that point. Outside the courthouse, my parents were waiting. We tried to do this amicably, Dad said. You forced us into legal channels. Now it's going to get expensive for everyone. You stole my home, I said flatly. We optimized family resources, Mom corrected. You would have done the same if you thought strategically instead of emotionally. That night, I got a call from my grandmother's best friend, Dorothy. She'd heard about the situation through the family grapevine. Patricia would be rolling in her grave, she said. But not for the reason your parents think. She told me before she died that she was leaving you the condo specifically because she knew they'd try to take it. She said, Dorothy, they'll come for it with spreadsheets and statistics, but Michael will fight for it because he understands it's not about the money. Would you testify to that? I asked. In a heartbeat. Update 3, 2 months later. The twins were born last week, 2 healthy girls named Patricia and Linda, after my grandmother and mother. The irony of naming a child after the woman whose wishes you're violating while simultaneously honoring the person orchestrating that violation is peak Morrison family dysfunction. The social media announcement was crafted perfectly. Photos of the twins in the nursery they'd set up in my grandmother's room, with captions about continuing family legacy and Patricia's great-grandchildren carrying on her memory in her beloved home. The comments were what you'd expect. So beautiful! Patricia would be so proud. Those babies are blessed to grow up in their great-grandmother's home. Family legacy at its finest. Nobody knew the truth. The legal proceedings have gotten uglier. My parents' lawyer submitted a detailed financial analysis showing that over my lifetime, I'd received approximately $52,000 more in family support than Jennifer. They had spreadsheets dating back to our childhoods, every birthday gift, every school expense, every dollar meticulously tracked. The family unit has consistently overinvested in Michael, Walsh argued. Patricia's will continues this pattern of inequity. The family is simply seeking to restore balance. They also submitted affidavits from 3 nurses at the hospice facility stating they'd observed me spending unusual amounts of time alone with the patient, and that I seemed to be discussing financial matters during visits. Charles cross-examined one nurse. Did you actually hear these financial discussions? Well, no, but he had papers with him sometimes. Medical power of attorney documents, insurance forms, medication schedules. I suppose it could have been those. But the damage was done. The seed of doubt was planted. Then came Dorothy's testimony. She was brilliant, describing in detail her conversations with my grandmother about the will. Patricia told me explicitly, Dorothy said, that she wanted Michael to have the condo because she knew the family would try to take it. She said, they'll dress it up in logic and fairness, but it's just greed with a PowerPoint presentation. Walsh cross-examined aggressively. Mrs. Chen, isn't it true you've been estranged from the Morrison family for years? I've been estranged from Robert and Linda, Dorothy corrected, because I've watched them treat their children like business assets for 30 years. So you have a bias against my clients? I have an opinion based on observation. And this alleged conversation with Patricia, do you have any proof? Any recording? Any written documentation? Just my word. The word of someone who admits to disliking the family. I see. After Dorothy's testimony, I found something while going through more of my grandmother's things in storage. It was a letter, sealed and addressed to me, hidden inside an old cookbook. The postmark was from 2 months before her death. Inside was her handwriting. My dearest Michael, if you're reading this, then things have probably gone exactly as I expected. Your parents will have made their move for the condo, using their cold logic and calculated arguments. They've probably accused you of manipulating me, suggested I was incompetent, or claimed I didn't understand Jennifer's needs. Let me be clear, I was of sound mind when I made my will. I knew Jennifer would likely have children. I knew your parents would see the condo as a wasted resource in your hands. I made my choice anyway. The condo isn't just property, Michael. It's your sanctuary from them. They've spent your whole life trying to optimize you, to make you fit their spreadsheets. The condo is the one thing they can't take if you're strong enough to fight for it. I'm leaving Jennifer liquid assets because that's what she values. I'm leaving you a home because you understand the difference between a house and a home. Don't let them reduce it to square footage and utility metrics. Fight for it, my dear boy. Not because of its value, but because it's yours. I love you, Grandma. The letter was dated and notarized. She'd had it officially witnessed. Charles was ecstatic. This is exactly what we needed. Clear evidence of mental capacity and intent. Final update, 4 months later. The judge ruled 2 weeks ago. After reviewing all the evidence, including my grandmother's letter, she made her decision. The will stands. The condo is legally mine. But the story doesn't end there. My family's response was swift and calculated. Within hours of the ruling, they sent a mass email to every relative, friend, and family acquaintance with the subject line, regarding Michael's decision. The email was a masterpiece of manipulation, complete with attached photos of the twins and financial charts showing the disparity in resource allocation. They painted me as a selfish bachelor who valued property over family, who forced newborn infants out of stable housing for sentimental reasons. They included photos of Jennifer crying while packing baby clothes, of Brandon carrying cribs downstairs, of the twins in their car seats being relocated from their established home. Every image carefully staged to maximum emotional impact. The extended family's response was immediate and unanimous. Cousin Sarah, I can't believe you do this to babies. Uncle James, your grandmother would be ashamed. Aunt Catherine, greed is a terrible look, Michael. My parents have cut me off completely. I received a formal letter from their attorney stating that I've been removed from their wills and that they expect full repayment of the $52,000 excess investment they made in my upbringing, with interest. They've calculated it down to the penny, including inflation adjustments. Jennifer posts daily on social media about the challenges of raising twins in transitional housing, despite having $320,000 in investments that have grown to nearly $350,000 in the recent market upturn. She never mentions the money, only the cramped apartment and the struggle of new motherhood without family support. But here's what they don't know. I found my grandmother's journals. Boxes of them, dating back decades, hidden in the storage unit she'd maintained. They tell a different story than the one my family presents. Entry from 1994, Robert came by today with a spreadsheet about Christmas gift equity. He actually calculated the value of each present to ensure Jennifer and Michael received exactly equal amounts. The boy is 8 years old and he has to hear his father explain why his sister's doll costs $2.50 more, so he'll get additional stocking stuffers to compensate. What have I raised? Entry from 2001, Linda called to discuss Michael's college choices from an ROI perspective. Not what would make him happy, not where he'd thrive, but which school would provide the best return on investment. She actually used those words about her own son. Entry from 2010, they're furious that Michael chose social work over business school. Robert actually said he was a failed investment. Their own child. How did my son become this person? Entry from 2019, Jennifer got engaged today. Linda's already calculating the tax benefits of various wedding dates. Not one word about love, happiness, or compatibility. Just optimization strategies. The final entry, just a week before she died, I've made my peace with everything except what they'll do to Michael when I'm gone. The condo is my last gift to him, not just property, but proof that someone in this family valued him for who he is, not what he could produce. I pray he's strong enough to keep it. I sit in the condo now, alone but not lonely. The walls hold memories of the one person who saw me as Michael, not as an underperforming asset in the family portfolio. I've kept everything exactly as she left it, the mismatched dishes, the ancient mixer, the table with its dangerous corners. Last week, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Jennifer. The twins are starting to smile. They'll never know their uncle because you chose property over family. I hope the square footage was worth it. I responded with a photo of Grandma's journal entry from when Jennifer was born. They've already started a college fund for the baby, but haven't once just held her without calculating her future value. My heart breaks for both these children. She blocked me immediately. The family narrative is set in stone now. I'm the selfish uncle who evicted babies for sentimental reasons. They're the logical family unit trying to optimize resources for the greater good. There's no changing that story, no matter what evidence I present. But I have the truth. And I have the condo. More importantly, I have the knowledge that my grandmother saw all of this coming and still chose to give me this gift. Not because she loved me more, but because she knew I'd need tangible proof that someone in this family valued me beyond my utility rating. My therapist says I'm processing well. That losing a toxic family is still a loss worth grieving. That standing up for myself against systematic manipulation disguised as logic is a victory, even if it doesn't feel like one. Some days I believe her. Other days I walk through the condo and wonder if Jennifer was right. If I should have just given in, kept the peace, remained in the family structure even if it meant accepting my designated role as the under-optimized asset who should sacrifice for the performing ones. But then I sit at my grandmother's kitchen table, the one with the dangerous corners that Grandpa built with his own hands, and I read her words, "Don't let them reduce it to square footage and utility metrics." She knew. She knew exactly who they were, what they do, and she still chose to give me this one thing they couldn't optimize away. The condo is mine. The loneliness is mine too. But so is the integrity of honoring a dying woman's wishes, of refusing to let family be reduced to spreadsheets, of standing firm against manipulation disguised as logic. They call me selfish. I call it self-preservation. They say I chose property over family. I say I chose my grandmother's wishes over their calculated redistribution. They claim I lack family values. I claim they lack human values. The twins will grow up hearing about their terrible Uncle Michael who denied them their rightful home. But maybe someday, they'll be old enough to ask why great-grandma Patricia left it to me in the first place. Maybe they'll find these journals. Maybe they'll understand that their parents and grandparents see them not as people to love, but as investments to optimize. Or maybe not. Maybe the cycle continues. Either way, I'm done being part of it. The condo stands as my grandmother's final act of resistance against a family that forgot people aren't spreadsheet cells. Every mortgage payment I make is a declaration that I am not a resource to be optimized. Every night I spend here is a tribute to the one person who loved me without calculating my ROI first. Worth it. Ask me in 20 years when the twins are adults. Ask me if they become people or portfolios. Ask me if they ever wonder why their uncle chose square footage over family, or if they eventually realize he chose humanity over optimization. Until then, I'll be here, in my grandmother's condo, surrounded by her memories and her truth, finally free from the family that loved me only as much as I could be leveraged. Some prices are worth paying. Some bridges are worth burning. Some inheritances are about more than money. And some families aren't worth keeping.